There we go. That was what I was going to do.
Hey, we're talking about aliens. Up next on Geek Out SA.
Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream.
And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Saturday and we're having fun.
Woohoo! Yeah.
So we're talking about aliens today. So we're
Okay.
Okay, so there were House hearings. It was the House Oversight Committee.
Okay. Yes. Vincent has been obsessively watching, by the way.
So they were talking about UAPs or
We used to know them as UFOs,
UFOs.
Unidentified Flying Objects, but now they're apparently UAPs.
UAPs, and it's Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon.
Phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Why did I know you were going to do that?
Because you've known me for a long time. So it's basically the same stuff that we've seen kind of before, right? It's blobs in the sky, fast-moving dots in the sky. It's those types of things that they're basically saying, yes, those videos are true or real, right?
Right. Well, a lot of
You've been watching it more than I
some
have.
of them are. There's some that have been kind of debunked, and there are whole groups within the government that do this stuff, and military installations that have things
Like Area 51. Is that what we're talking about?
like Area 51,
But not Area
but
51.
not just Area 51. There's other places.
Right.
And it's not necessarily something that they can specifically speak about because they're talking about stuff, but they don't actually are allowed to say some of the stuff because they're not cleared to.
Right. And I will say that I don't know as far as whether I believe this is completely true or not. I do know, because I've worked on research for the government, that you do, if you work on classified research, which I did, you do have to sign papers that say that you won't discuss it for a certain amount of time.
Right.
So that is something that you do have to be concerned about, especially these people if they continue to have jobs in government agencies.
Right, to keep their security clearance.
Right. And so they don't want to disclose that information. The thing that this is me personally, I know you have a different belief, but the thing that I personally believe is it's awfully convenient that all of this is coming out now. It's awfully convenient that they can't really talk about it, right? So to me, it feels like more of a setup. It's like a bait and switch. They're trying to get us to and I feel like they did this last time we had kind of a changing of the guard,
Right.
to kind of get us to look at this. And I'm not saying that I don't believe that there isn't alien life out there. I definitely do believe, but I've heard some stuff and I don't know, because I've only heard it through what you're watching. But stuff about the aliens being humanoid and talking to this woman who, was she really testifying to the House committee, or that was something else you were listening to?
That was something else.
It was
Yeah, that
some
was something else I was
scientist
talking to,
researcher, and she's like, oh, and they spoke to me and stuff. She sounded like...
Well, there was a guy here in San Antonio that there was a book that he wrote, but he was from San Antonio, and they did a movie about it. It was called Communion. And he was abducted by aliens, and that was somebody here in San Antonio. That happened like a while back.
Right. I mean, I don't know. It's funny because I've had this conversation with people before. Hello, Lennon. Part of me is like, why? Why would they want to abduct us? Like, okay, yes, they want to experiment on us or check us out or see how we tick or whatever. Or I know that you watch a lot of those shows and you believe that the aliens were here before and they're like kind of picking us up to check and see if their genetic experiment is working or whatever.
There's a lot of stuff that points to that.
I will say, if I think they're picking us up for any reason, I feel like we're probably the cockroaches of the universe. I mean, they see the way we destroy our planet and the way we treat one another. So they're probably like, let's check them out and see if they're like going to get off planet too far, because if they are, we need to destroy them.
But I feel like they would have done that already.
Well, we still can't get off planet far enough to impact anybody. We're still really in a relatively close neighborhood of planets that we can go to. You know what I'm saying?
That we know of.
You think that we're sending people further out into space? I don't think we're there.
From what we've heard in the hearings is that they've re-engineered some of the spacecraft and they're working.
I mean, that just sounds really Independence Day to me. Like, we're just watching these movies and like making stuff up or what. But I guess, like, I feel conflicted because I say that and that comes out of my mouth and I'm like, you know, I don't believe that we're doing that. It sounds like Independence Day. And yet we just did the Tesla robots a couple of weeks ago and those look like the robots from the iRobot movie, and that seems unfathomable. So...
But we should be a lot further along than we are.
How so?
Like flying cars was something that was done in like the 50s. We've been doing that, but
they didn't have a working one.
No, they had a working one.
Of a flying car in the 50s.
Yes, they had a working one, but they didn't mass produce them. And I think there was also an issue with like the Federal Aviation. Yeah.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know how close we were. I'm gonna do some research on that because I don't know how close we were to flying cars back in the 1950s. I know that they've been conceptualized for a long time.
No, they were conceptualized even before that.
Yeah. I mean, you can see them in science fiction writings and things like that. So, but is that... So I know you watch a lot of those, like, ancient aliens debunked and stuff like that, right? So is the concept of flying cars something that the human mind just came up with as a novelty, or something that we thought, well, this would be interesting if I could go as quickly as a plane or a bird or something that I see flying, but in a car? Or is it something that...
Is it something that someone has seen in the past?
Or someone has seen in an abduction or, you know, something like that. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
I mean, it's hard to tell, right? You don't really know. So, and there's another one that you're always telling about, some library of...
Well,
Alexandria or something?
Carpathia.
Oh, okay.
When they destroyed the libraries in Carpathia, we lost a lot of information and education that was held in that library that would have put us further. I mean...
Steve said, putting the 50s aside, according to Back to the Future, we were supposed to have flying cars everywhere in 2015.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and again, it's something that we've conceptualized, but...
No, but it's possible. It's possible to do that. Maybe not in the way that we thought, but we have flying cars now. There are flying cars. They just don't mass produce them. Because one, you need like a pilot's license to fly them.
I don't know. I've never seen these supposed flying cars that you've seen. So
Yeah, I mean, they're not on the road because you can't drive them
obviously
legally.
I've never seen them on the road, but I've never even seen like them test them or anything like
Yeah,
that.
no, they've been testing them for decades.
I'm gonna need to spot check all of this stuff because I don't know about all that.
Look it up. You'll see.
No, I will.
See a bunch.
I will.
You'll see a ton of stuff.
Yeah, you know me. I'm the naysayer. I'm always the naysayer.
But some of the stuff that they talked about in the hearings that they have bodies.
Well, okay, I know for a fact that we have a queue up for that.
Yeah.
I think it's number 4. Let me try, y'all. Hold on.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there was biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that biologics have been recovered. Again, my focus was more nuts and bolts, looking at the physical aspects of these phenomenon, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities. So I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you a whole lot of value in that simply because I don't have the expertise.
But was anything described as that we have possession of bodies?
Yes, yes.
We have is it multiple types of creatures, or?
Sir, I couldn't answer that. I can tell you anecdotally that it was discussed quite a bit when I was at the Pentagon. The problem is the supposed collection of these biological samples occurred before my time, in fact, before I was even born.
So before he was even born, and he's got to be probably close to our age.
Yeah.
But again, I think I think it's subjective.
And if you take that into consideration, it's probably from what they found in Roswell.
Supposedly, right. So I think that's very subjective, and this is why I think it's very subjective. He's being very obtuse about what any of it means.
But
right?
he's being obtuse because he has to be.
I'm not saying he doesn't have to be. This is what I'm saying. He's saying that we have bodies, yes, quote unquote bodies. We don't know what those bodies are. Scientifically, because I believe in science, scientifically, we know that technically we are all aliens, right? Something from space, a meteor or something, hit the Earth. Okay, the Earth was new, it had just formed, something large hit it, knocked a piece off that becomes the moon. It's terraforming, it's coming back. It's not even terraforming. At this point, nothing. It's just rocks and stuff. Rocks and water. Something hits, and there is something like a xenophile. So it's something that can live, it's a microscopic organism that can live in extreme places. And we still have them here on Earth today. They can live in volcanoes. They can live...
Extremophiles.
Yeah. They can live in glaciers. They can exist for a very long period of time.
Without oxygen.
With nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, with nothing. So we know for a fact that...
So that kind of makes us think that, carbon-based air-needing organisms, there's a lot more that could be living than we realize.
Could be living and is very specific to this planet because those microorganisms evolved over a very, very long period of time to be part of this oxygen-breathing, carbon-based society that we have now.
Yeah, I'm tired of...
I would agree, Steve.
No,
but I think...
Yeah.
I think that the hardcore proof that we're going to see these bodies, because you could really say a tardigrade has a body, right? It does. It's a microorganism, but it has a body. It has little feet. It has a body. So these bodies that they have, are they microscopic organisms that they've found, or are they bodies? Are they some kind of gelatinous,
Well, they referred to them as humanoid later on in the hearing.
But humanoid in what sense?
Like bipedal.
So could be like a duck, like Howard the Duck. He's an alien,
Yeah.
right? Ducks are bipedal. They could be humanoid-esque.
Yeah, well, but from history, you see things like you see it with Native Americans. You see like rock paintings that have been there for years.
With the sky gods, because you've watched
With the
all
sky
of that,
gods,
like
yeah.
Egyptian and stuff, where it has the elongated head that we presume is some kind of alien.
Like a gray or something.
Yeah, right.
Like what we call the gray alien.
Right. And I guess you could say, well, there's enough of the population who's saying that they see these things that maybe there's something to it. I'm more leaning to where Steve is leaning. It's not that I don't think that there's not some kind of alien life out there, but just show
We're
us.
not ready to see it though. Like, we're getting to that point because we're so saturated right now. They've been saturating like the past 10 years. They've been saturating us with alien information, preparing us.
I have a queue up that shows one of the first ones that we really saw that was kind of big. I guess it was in 2021, 2020, something like that, 2018, 20. It's been a while. And this is the military guys who have seen things out like in their planes and stuff, and they talked about this many years ago. So let me show y'all that.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like that thing, it's rotating. Nickel 6-1 tank, Roger. Hey, go ahead! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting. Did you box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at that, man. Look at the front.
Yeah, so
that's some convincing stuff there. Looking at it.
It's convincing that they saw something. I don't know that it's necessarily.
But
I guess technically it's a UFO.
But the pilots are saying that these things are moving in a way that they have never seen something move like that before. At speeds and directions, like instantaneously move. Like you can't just do that as a human because you'll pass out. You'll at the speeds that those things are moving, you'll die. Like a human would die doing that.
Smush up your organs or something.
Yeah.
Steve says, as to whether or not we're ready, quoting Men in Black, a person is smart, people are stupid. I mean, not a lie. So I think that as far as us being ready, I feel like they could put the information out there, and it's like War of the Worlds, right? Mm-hmm. We could put something fake out there right now, and I would say 70% of the people on, like, you put it on TikTok or something, and people believe all hail TikTok, all hail Instagram, whatever.
Well,
it's true.
There's this. They've been talking about this video that nobody's seen. I think I've seen like a glimpse of it, of aliens, that this just happened like a few weeks ago. That aliens were in a mall, and then somebody's got video of it in the mall.
Were they with Bigfoot? Riding on the Loch Ness
Bigfoot.
Monster? I mean, I think that in this day and age, there's so much you can do to create videos, right? Create things that are supposedly real. I just watched an AI video the other day of Dak Shepard. He's the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. But it was AI of him, and they were asking him, like, how did it feel to do, to do poorly game after game after game or whatever. In the video, he's saying, well, I don't care. You guys pay me a lot of money. You pay me whether I win or not. Like, I don't care, right? And it's what everybody's thinking that he's thinking, but he would never say it in public.
Right.
But because it was so convincing with AI, like, it went out there and people thought that he had really said that. Like, it had to be researched and it had to be reeled back in. So at what point do we even know anymore what's real, what's not? I mean, if we think that we can trust the government at all, we can't.
No.
So how are we ever going to know? Like Steve's saying, oh, I want some hardcore proof. I would love some too. But what does that look like? What does hardcore proof look like? Because we've seen, remember,
And then when are we going to be allowed to see that proof?
right. No, remember we watched this a while ago, like several years ago, and it was that guy, and he claimed he had an alien, and he claimed he had an alien, and they had done an alien autopsy, and he had all of this like scientific research and stuff. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a tiny, right?
It was a tiny
like a
little
tiny
thing.
little
Yeah.
thing, and then
But it looked like a little itty bitty gray.
yeah.
Yeah.
It looked very convincing, and then finally, after years and years, and this is circulating around and stuff, we find out it's not real. I mean, I didn't trust it to begin with, but here's the thing. Okay, they give us proof. Even, like what? They're going to give us proof in a press conference? They're going to give us proof on Instagram, on TikTok? Like, how can we believe any of that stuff at this point? And is that the whole point of this to begin with? Is to keep us in the dark. If they just give us enough and make us just uncertain enough and just leak out enough fake stuff that we're just never really going to know. Unless some big spaceship comes, again, Independence Day style, hovers over us, and we're all there with our signs and they kill us.
And I don't think we're ever going to see anything like that, because I think if they're aliens, their technology is so far advanced from ours, we can't even comprehend it.
Right. And if they don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen.
Yeah, they don't want. They're being seen because they're allowing themselves to be seen.
Well, I heard them say some of that in the hearing as well, where their guesstimation, I guess, is that we're getting more and more sightings because they want to communicate with us. And so they're allowing themselves to be seen. Because that was another thing they were talking about is, have we had communication with these aliens? And the man from the Pentagon was saying, well, it depends on what do you mean by communicating, right? Are you asking if we've spoken like this? No. But like if you're asking is there...
He didn't say no.
He alluded to no.
But he didn't say no.
No, but
he didn't say no.
He didn't say no, but he alluded to no. He alluded to the fact that
he alluded to the fact that he felt like he couldn't say if we physically spoken to one or not.
Well, maybe he personally hadn't physically spoken, but the way
he hadn't, but he.
But the way he described it, it seemed like there had been some kind of communication method. So it's like, what is that movie with Richard Dreyfuss, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they talk with the music? And I know, there are people here on Earth that think, we can use radio waves. That's a universal way. You can use ones and zeros. That's supposed to be a universal way to speak.
I mean, the universal way to speak is through math. Understanding.
You cannot speak to me in math. I would not understand you. That is not universal for me. You spoke to me in math and I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if you're going to present something that's something that levels the playing field, you talk about like distance and math. And
if I'm going to talk to them about something, I'm going to be like images. I'm going to be like, is this your brother? Alien. Grogu, alien. You, alien. Me, person. Right? I don't know. That's how I would try to talk to them. Like they're a kindergartner.
But like I said, we already have technology that can translate as someone speaking to you, and you can it's like the Babelfish from Douglas Adams books.
Again, I'm gonna disagree with you, because those are languages we already know and understand, that we've built in, that we've put into an AI.
They've been
We can't
here.
speak to the dog. Can you speak to the dog? It's something we've been wanting to do, but can you do it? No, because none of us speak dog. We don't know. Can we translate French and English, French to Spanish, French to German, German to English, German to Spanish, German to Arabic? Yeah, because we know all of those. We have those. We have those on the net. We have databases of those. We have living people that speak of those.
But you're assuming that they can't understand our language.
Steve says, in an episode of Star Trek Discovery, they used math to develop a way to talk to a species that exists outside of our galaxy, where they use emotions and light to communicate, called the 10C. I remember that episode, actually. I think that's where Vincent is getting his data from, is from Star Trek. But it's fine.
No.
No, I mean, is it possible that, okay, let's throw out all the is it possibles, right? So is it possible that A, they've been coming here, B, they're extremely advanced enough to get here from God knows where they're coming from, right? C, they've been watching us for a very long time and maybe helping us move along.
Right.
So D, because of all of these things, could they potentially know our language? Well, heck yeah. I mean, I think that our language would be pretty basic compared
To whatever they can do.
to whatever they can do.
Yeah.
Yes, theoretically, do I believe that that is something that could happen? Yes, theoretically I do. You know.
And then some of the things they're talking about, these aliens are able to, they're interdimensional beings. They're able to phase in and out of different dimensions. So when we see things disappear like we do, like we see ships disappear like they disappear into a different dimension.
That's the Bermuda Triangle theory. That there's a rip there in the dimensions and they go into another dimension. Yeah.
But they're able to, it's not just there, they can do it anywhere.
The multiverse. Ooh. Well, I will say that there's other interesting video out there. Again, I think it's all in the watching, right? If I had seen it, I would probably be like, oh, it's like a speck of light, you know, or something, because we've been out and seen the Marfa lights or whatever. This next one that I'm going to show, the next two that I'm going to show, are actually from Border Patrol here in Texas. So check these out. That's number one. And let me show you the second one really quickly. Oops, I'm a dork. I uploaded both of the same video.
No.
QUp 2 and QUp 3. The other one's similar. It looks like that, but it's a white speck instead of a black speck. The thing that I thought was interesting about the black speck, that at first I was like, is that like a vulture or something? But as it's moving along, it gets like a glow around it that
Yeah.
you see. So again, I don't know if it's because I would really like for this to be true, because I would, just like you. I would really like for this to be true. I mean, I don't think, I think that there are definitely some people that would be afraid, but there are some weirdos like you and I that would be like, hey, I would love to see an alien, like straight up, let's go. Even when I was a kid and we used to drive around in the car, I always thought like I saw them, you know, especially when I was super young and I didn't know like what the lights were, you know, so that the airplanes, you know, wouldn't fly into stuff
Right.
or whatever. Or I didn't know if we were really far away and we were out in the country, because we would go out to like Divine and stuff where there wasn't a lot of lights back then. And so it would be like some hotel or something like really far away up on a hill or whatever. And I'd see the light and I'd be like, oh, that's it. I see one, you know. So I've always been looking for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess, I don't know if I'm like Steve and I just want some proof, if I'm never going to believe unless I see it myself, if I'm looking for something that's not really what it actually looks like in the end, which I think comes down to like the grays and stuff. Like I think when they say in the House hearings, oh, we have bodies, I think you, maybe not you, but I'm just thinking you and other people are thinking when they say bodies, they've got bodies of a gray.
Or something like that, yeah, definitely. Because there's several different types of aliens that people have seen. Some look almost exactly like us, or like perfect humans. Some are like they have the blue alien, some are reptilian. That they're all checking this out to see how we're coming along.
Well, and then that begs the question of how many of these sci-fi TV shows are based off of maybe somebody being abducted, somebody seeing these, or how much is our desire to have this understanding based on what we've seen on TV shows? Because if you think about it, like V, like when we were growing up, V was a really big thing. We have Resident Alien, where he can shapeshift into something else.
Yeah.
Those are the two that are like some of my favorites that are like off the top of my head. But do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it art imitating life? Or is it...
And are we prey alien? Because if you look at some of the things where you look at primates, most of the great apes have 48 chromosomes. And humans have about 46.
46, yeah.
So, and some of that is because there's like junk genes in there that aren't really doing anything.
Yeah.
Or been turned off and turned on. What if they came through and manipulated those chromosomes to make us what we are today? Because if you look at us, if you go through evolution, we shouldn't be where we are right now. We should be further back in the evolutionary chain than we are. We took jumps a few times to get where we are.
I mean, I'd have to do some really deep dive scientific research to see if that's true. I've seen that on some of the shows that we watch, right? That's saying that evolutionary wise, the jump from primate to humanoid is too short-lived.
Yeah.
To have gotten us there. I don't know. I would have to do some serious research to see what is the jumps. But again, the jumps between different species often happen because of accidental mutations in the genes that became fortuitous at the perfect time,
Right.
for it to be necessary, for those things not to be eaten by predators.
But you still have the chromosomes. They're just not turned on. They're still there. They're dormant.
But like
When you're looking at humans don't have those. chromosomes. They're missing 2.
But I would have to look and see what that chromosome, because I'm not a geneticist. I've done a tiny bit of scientific genetics work, but nothing to qualify me as a geneticist. So I would have to look and see, like, what is the change? Because yes, if you're talking about the change from like fox to, you know, white-haired fox, right? Because that coat color changed genetically, accidentally, and then those foxes that happened to be in the Arctic lived because of predation. They couldn't be found as easily.
Right.
And so then, because they're the ones that live, they're the ones that reproduce, and then that becomes a coat
But that's
color.
like a code in the gene where it's on and off, not that fox has less genes or more genes.
Right, but we're talking
than the
fox to, we're talking like fox to fox, exactly.
Right.
Like what is the genetic change?
Because we're not that far from the great apes. We're not.
But what's the genetic change from like bird genetic code to dinosaur genetic code? Because we do believe that there's a connection between them.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. I would have to do some research to see how I felt about that being some of the evidence that we're supposed to believe in. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I would need to do some research. But that's the other thing that bothers me is most of us are not educated enough in the field, specific field, to know if this data is real or not. And I have worked in science labs, and
But we do know that great apes have 48 chromosomes and we have 46. We know that.
Yeah, but I don't know why. I haven't researched it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why. Have I heard that's a fact? Yes, I have heard that that's a fact. Do I know why? Have I done enough science research to know why? Have I looked at peer-reviewed journals to know why? Absolutely not. And here's the thing, here's the problem that I have with this alien stuff is because let's say they have it and they're just not releasing it, right? Well, if they have it and they're not releasing it, then there haven't been enough peer-reviewed journals. There haven't been enough scientific eyes on it, right? You're keeping it in this closed community. The closed community
because it's in a closed community because not many people can understand it.
I bet you'd be surprised how many people could understand it. Like intellectuals. I'm not saying put it out to the mass public,
Yeah.
but you're not putting it out. Like if we're looking...
Well, how do you know it's not already out? Well, how do you know they're not discussing this already? How do you know that's part of the government conspiracy that they're not talking about?
Because I still think if they're doing it, if they're discussing it, they're still discussing it within the government agency. There's still a very small group of like government-funded scientists or whatever that are meant to see it a specific way. And I've seen enough science research that when somebody is blindsided into just seeing it a specific way, you begin to steer yourself there. Just like when you're writing a very long paper for yourself or something, and to you it sounds perfectly good because you understand in your mind that this is where I'm going with it. But if somebody on the outside looks at it, it doesn't sound the same to them because they're not in your head. That happens with scientific research as well. You have a very narrow vision of what you believe it is, what you've hypothesized, and you want it to fit your hypothesis. And so you find a way to make it fit your hypothesis. That's one of my problems, is we have such a small sample of people looking at this research that they supposedly have, that I don't know that we're getting a true picture. If we're getting a picture. Does that even make sense? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if I'm saying it clearly enough.
I don't know. Like I said, I think we're being bombarded with the alien stuff, information. I think it's time more of us look into what is going on, because they have the, what is it called? They have like big conventions where they have the guy with the crazy hair come in from Ancient Aliens and talks about stuff. Because I think Frank's really big into UFOs. My Uncle Frank. So if more people like go through and start talking about that, getting the research out there, because eventually it's gonna come to a point where we're gonna need to know more than less about this stuff, because it's eventually gonna hit us.
I mean, I don't think
I feel in our lifetime.
I mean, I just don't think it's going to hit us unless they want it to. And not the Pentagon. I'm not talking about unless the Pentagon wants it to. I don't think it's going to hit us unless the aliens want it to. Because I don't think if the Pentagon really has stuff, they're never going to let it go. They're never going to release it to us. Especially if they're trying to use the technology to further what we've got and keep it away from other
Well, yeah,
governments
because
and
we
world
want to be on the
powers.
right side of that technology.
Right. And the American government does tend to always think it knows better of what everybody else needs. So
Right.
that's kind of one of our flaws. What can I say? I don't know. I'm way more of a skeptic than you are. And not because I don't want it to be true. I do.
But if you look some of the things that happen in history and some of the stories that you hear in history about different areas that had big wars that had stuff that seemed like nuclear war. And there's evidence of it happening in certain areas.
Yeah, but again, evidence that we're getting from TV shows. Or from people who think that they can read ancient languages that perhaps they're reading incorrectly. I mean, hindsight's 20/20. That's all of that stuff where Nostradamus predicted all of these things or whatever. Well, of course we can connect it to stuff because we want to. Okay, we can read what he said, all his cryptic stuff, and we can say, oh, that really happened.
But if you see the same thing over in different cultures, all over the world, around the same time, how do you explain that?
But like what?
But how do you
I
explain
would need
that?
something specific.
Like the drawings of like the sky people, or the Anunnaki, or this stuff in Egypt, which all happen around the same time. All these drawings happen around the same time. You have the Aztecs and the Mayans, all around the same time, drawing this stuff that looks very similar.
And that is one of the pieces of evidence that I've seen on the shows that you watch that does seem fairly compelling. I would say that does seem fairly compelling.
Like you
But I
see
don't know-
I think one of the carvings in Mexico of a where it looks like somebody, the guy's in a spaceship and he has like a mouthpiece and all there. Seems very technologically advanced, way far advanced than they were.
But again, and that's where I was kind of going. That's where I was coming to before. What I was trying to say is, was that really their intent? Were the drawings about those, or is that reading into it what we want? So we know that religion and religious beliefs have been around for a very long time. We know that we feel like there is some entity out there.
Yeah,
in
but that
the
stuff that
ether.
was done there was most of the time where it's done, and when you see something, it's usually done symbolic, and you try to make things like when they see angel, or you see like pictures of angels and they have wings because they're flying. Well, the only things that they saw fly were birds, so they gave them wings so they to symbolize that they're able to fly, not that they actually had wings.
Right.
Just that was showing what they understood was a being that could fly with what they've seen before.
Well, and that's the thing. So if they see the sun and they know that maybe the crops come when the sun happens or something good happens when the sun happens, then do we have these sun deities? And then there's also theories that like Nefertiti's line and some of those others, they had a genetic malformality that caused their heads to be elongated like that, and it's just over exaggerated in the drawings and stuff.
Oh, Tutankhamun, yeah, he had that.
Yeah, so basically, we don't know. I mean, it was a lot of a show to say, we don't know. But there's evidence out there, take it or leave it, I think, for, what you believe. Because I know Vincent definitely believes it. I'm more of a skeptic. Vincent believes it.
I just would, all I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if we see something soon. So, you're not, I don't know what you mean. You're moving your hands with an X. Are you trying to say wrap it up? But no, I don't know. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I feel like, again, we're more bombarded than we ever have with alien stuff. I think it started. We started being trickled in the 80s, and then a little more in the 90s. I think now it's left and right. We're just getting bombarded with information about aliens, and I think we're going to see more, and I think we're going to see aliens soon. So, but that's my thoughts on it. But thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. If you hadn't clicked that subscribe button, click on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so the next time we go live, you know. But thanks for checking us out. I'm Vince.
And I'm Colleen.
Geek out, SA.